Well, let's kick off the live stream for today.
Let's go.
You know, it's interesting. Once again, my good buddy Drew, CEO of Price Slide. It's worth mentioning right now, as we sit here live streaming, we are doing a gift card promotion.
Yeah, let me pull up. I'm going to pull up the actual. Okay, so what you see right here, this is the actual. There, I'm going to put it right
Get up in there.
See that there? That is the actual slide happening. So that's the actual slide happening for the Iron Pig. Your $25 gift card is down to $18.91. Now, here's the fun thing about Price Slide. To date, right now, we are the only people who do this in the entire world. Okay, so I have a patent on this thing. Okay, you commit to a price. Right now, you would go on and commit to a $25 gift card. Mm-hmm. And you would commit to a price of $18.91.
Yep.
Okay. When you commit to that price, the more people you share this with and the more people who buy it, it could continue to go down, all the way down to $15. Okay. So, and you don't pay until it gets down to the lowest price at the end of the promotion. Like right now, there's 2 days and 10 hours left. So no matter what you commit at, you get the promotion for whatever the lowest price. You all do. We call it crowd pricing. I'm telling you, someday, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, whatever it is going to disrupt the entire sales industry.
It's a cool thing.
And you will go back to this video and you'll be like, I saw these guys talking about it, the Iron Pig doing it. And that's Price Slide. So get your gift card.
And we've proven it out for the last couple of years. 2019, I think, is when the first one that we did. We've done $50 gift cards. We've done growing gift cards where they kind of the opposite of this. So instead of you getting a discount, we give you the difference in a...
It goes up. The more people who do it, it goes up. So all this stuff, here's what's fun. You have literally been like my guinea pig.
Yeah.
And so any new thing, I'm like, oh, let's do this. Let's try this. Fun. It has been fun. So now what we're doing as a company... we actually just hired a group called X Agency. X Agency is specifically an AI software development company, right? And they're taking our software. So like, let's say right now, 100 people wanted to use Price Slide. I couldn't do it. Our software is not good enough to do that.
Sure.
It takes a ton of money to pour into your software, like millions of dollars, right? So we just landed an investment. Huge deal for us, right? Huge deal for us. And we are now going to be able to take Price Slide over the next 6 months to what we want it to be, and put into it how we want it to operate, so we can bring Price Slide to the world.
I love it. It's been a really unique format for selling gift cards, T-shirts, and we used it for our Freedom Festivals, Fuel Fest.
Yes, we did.
I mean, anything that we can put out there, crowd price.
I appreciate it.
You know, we've done barbecue sauce even.
We have.
But right now, $25 gift card is going for around just under $19 right now, and it'll keep sliding all the way down to $15. Grab one, ironpigsmoke.com. Yep. As soon as the promotion is over, you'll get an email with that e-gift card from Toast, which is our point-of-sale company. So it just goes digitally right to you.
Perfect.
And then gift givers can either print them or they can just forward them right on to another email address. If somebody across the country, you don't have time to ship. Us men, these are great gifts to give to other fellas. That's not to say that women don't enjoy barbecue, but... You know, men are last-minute gift givers is what I'm trying to say.
And have you heard of Boxing Day?
I have heard of Boxing Day.
Boxing Day was just introduced to me today.
I can't say that I celebrate or know a whole lot about Boxing Day, but as a social media marketer...
There's Boxing Day.
You know, you get a content calendar that so many people run off of.
All right, so here's what Boxing Day is. I've learned all about this. So my back office is in the Philippines, right? So my assistant is Filipino. We meet every morning about 5:30 a.m. It's 5:30 p.m. her time, right? And she's like, "Oh, are we doing anything on Boxing Day?" Right? And I've gotten really good at Asian English because like that's what she speaks. And she's like, "Are we doing anything?" I was like, "Boxing Day? What the heck's Boxing? I've never heard of Boxing Day. What's Boxing Day?" And she looked at me and she says, "Oh, you don't know Boxing Day?" We looked it up right away.
You don't know?
Canadians, Australians, New Zealand, Britain. So it's more of a British thing. Sure. And then anything that Britain overtook.
My understanding.
Yep. Okay. So what it is this. Back in the 1600s.
This is probably another reason why many Americans don't know about it.
No, we have no idea because we
it's outside the U.S.?
Yeah. Well, actually, culturally, Americans technically don't have servants. Okay, I don't mean so when I mean servants, so in the Philippines, if you're wealthy, it's actually pretty normal to have people who live in your house that still serve you, right? That's actually a fairly normal thing still. Okay. Here in America, even if you're really wealthy, it typically is not a live-in butler type thing. Maybe you hire a maid to come in and clean your house a couple times a week. Maybe you hire like the private chef service or something like that. But typically in America, we don't have a live-in servant. Okay.
Right.
So here's what Boxing Day is. Boxing Day, because servants typically serve the people that they work for on Christmas. Boxing Day is the day after Christmas that the people who are being served serve the servants. So what it used to be is the master, okay, would have a big box of all the food and everything from Christmas and a bunch of presents, and they'd give it to the servants in a big box, and the servants would have the day off, and they would get served by the quote unquote master. Okay, that was back in the 1600s.
Yeah.
Now it's just a day. It's like Black Friday. So go buy stuff. I was telling, I was telling Michelle, my assistant, I'm like, well, so can you just put in a box everything you don't want from Christmas and then you go buy new stuff? She's like, yeah, that's kind of what we do. We just go and like buy everything we want. I'm like, oh my gosh. So Boxing Day, that's a thing. That's a huge thing. We don't celebrate in America though.
And now
December 26th.
And now you're more cultured thanks to the podcast.
Now you know.
Now you know. Now we can all go about
Boxing Day.
Go get a gift card.
Go get a gift card.
Day. Yes.
Yeah. Go give the people who serve you.
Okay. So we we're very, very professional here.
Extremely professional.
On the podcast.
Yeah.
And so we sat down yesterday and we're having a discussion. Big news right now.
Pretty good discussion.
Is dumping Trump, right? Colorado Supreme Court ruled that Trump is not allowed on the primary ballot.
Yeah. And we were getting your reaction to that.
We were doing a little reaction, and our producer forgot to hit the audio button.
What a jerk!
I know, and by producer I mean me. So we're doing a freshie here today, and,
I like it.
Since just 24 hours, there is more news coming around about more states joining in. Right here in Michigan, there is a lawsuit. There was discussion about removing Trump from the primary ballot. California's lieutenant governor, I believe, has made, of course, lieutenant governors have virtually no power, but comments being made by the administration in California seem to be going along the same lines. I find it extremely fascinating. I mean, it's a little worrisome, but this whole process, people have to remember that this is the judicial branch of our government, right?
Yeah. So break it down real quick, because I think yesterday we did a really good job explaining things. Break down how Colorado came to the fact that they were legally allowed to remove Trump from the ballot.
Yeah. So, the Colorado Supreme Court is the highest court in the state, and there's various courts beneath it. And it looked like at one point there was a ruling, so this is all around the 14th Amendment.
Right.
I believe maybe even Section 1 and Section 5, I forget. But, and I have not read the Michigan, good Lord, the Colorado Supreme Court ruling yet.
Okay.
Was it 6-3?
3.
So what had happened is various courts in Colorado had made a ruling one way or the other, basically stating that Trump had violated the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution by inciting an insurrection.
Correct.
One of the lower courts had originally ruled, in his oath of office, he didn't actually use the words to uphold the Constitution. It's kind of a bunch of malarkey, if you ask me. Sure. But both sides of the aisle, Democrats are cheering this and Republicans are upset about it. It looks like Trump's poll numbers do nothing but go up. More states are looking at this. We do know that the U.S. Supreme Court will look at it. If they actually rule on it or not, we're not really sure.
Sure.
I'm now hearing that Colorado is considering going to a straight caucus.
Interesting.
Because of this, and I'm not smart enough to know the differences between doing a caucus and a primary. I'll leave that up for the election folks to really get around. But for me, this is kind of what our founding fathers had envisioned. Maybe not necessarily in the way that the insurrection clause of the 14th Amendment is being used.
Sure.
But the way that it's being adjudicated through state courts, state Supreme Court, and then eventually be listened to, I'm guessing, by the United States Supreme Court. But this is how this is supposed to work. It's a living, breathing document, and the judicial branch is going to come in and interpret whether Trump saying some things was inciting an insurrection, whether that qualifies.
Which probably won't hold up, right?
I don't think so.
Because there was no actual conviction yet.
And that's the real problem, is there was no jury trial.
Right.
There was no evidence that was allowed to be introduced. So this lower court ruling that did find Trump incited an insurrection really wasn't a fair trial, I guess is probably the best way to put it.
Yep.
And that's the part to me that is troubling. But as it works its way through the process, we'll see some of those things be illuminated. There's been some court cases here in Michigan. The Flint water case, actually, didn't mention this yesterday, but there's some legality around a one-judge grand jury that did or didn't issue indictments in the Flint water stuff that happened here in Michigan.
So I remember that. What do you mean by that? What's a one-judge grand jury?
Right. Usually, so jury is generally made up of multiple jurists, whether they're civilians in a traditional jury or it's multiple judges who are also jurists. In our Court of Appeals, generally, I believe there's 3 jurists that sit on the Court of Appeals panel. In the Flint water case, without getting too off track, they had a one-judge grand jury.
So it's just one judge.
So it was basically just one judge, and I believe this person was appointed. So, again, it kind of doesn't look like it's a really fair process.
Yeah.
So... Again, it's like the minimum wage law stuff that we've been talking about here in Michigan that just heard oral arguments the other day. The Republicans used a procedure that's not necessarily unconstitutional, which was adopting the petition, the citizen-led petition, and amending it in the same session. Usually that will happen across 2 separate sessions of the legislature. In 2018, Republicans here in Michigan adopted the petition and amended it quite a bit, actually. So that's what the Supreme Court says. So, I mean, that's the process. These things go through. I believe in the Constitution. I wouldn't say I'm a constitutionalist, but, I mean, that any more these days, it's kind of what we have to go back to in due process and that whole thing, I guess.
So Trump is not on the ballot in Colorado.
As of right now... Trump is not allowed.
Which does that mean if you are in Colorado, you literally cannot vote for him, or would you have to write him in?
I don't. That's a great question. And in the primary, it most likely depends on their bylaws.
Okay.
For the primary there, and I don't know if both Democrats and Republicans have the same. I'm not sure. I know there's a lot of issues going on here in Michigan with the Michigan GOP and some strife within their own party and bylaws and state committees and all this other stuff. But it sounds like it's energizing more and more people. All of this stuff. We always, the last couple of elections, now it seems like every election, this is the most important election of our lifetime. I would struggle to use the word important. I would use the word fascinating for several different reasons. But I don't know, man. It's crazy. I'm not surprised, I guess, is my best reaction to all of this.
So every day I drop my daughter off at school and I look at her. Almost every day I look at her and say, hey, what day is it today? She's like, Dad. She rolls her eyes, right? rolls her eyes every single time, but I make sure to tell her. I said, what day is it today? She said, it's the most important day. I said, why? Because it's the day I'm living. I said, 100%. Don't ever forget that. The most important thing you can ever do is what you're doing right now.
Right.
And it's really funny you say that. It's funny you say that. This is the most important election. Well, there's this idea of value, or this is idea of like, what assets or what equity do you have to live your life, right? You have money. You have, maybe you could say I have social equity with my family or my friends. Mm-hmm. I think the thing that people minimize the most, yet is the most important, is your time. Mm. Your time is the greatest asset you have.
Yeah, you can never get it back.
Can't get it back. It's why Elon Musk would literally trade all his wealth to go back 20 years, just to grab 20 extra years. Mm-hmm. Right? He'd give it all $240 billion, right? Yep. He'd go back 20 years. You'd buy it for anything, right? And so it's interesting for us to think about this. And since our last, so you and I talked yesterday, and it was recorded, but it wasn't audio. One of the things I was thinking about after our talk is this concept of, what are we doing with what we have? And what are we distracted by? And so we're reacting to things that are very important to us, right? Like, this is huge. Who we get to vote for, and the type of country we live in. That, I mean, we've championed this idea that you get to vote for who your leaders are. You get to be a part of the country and the political landscape that you're in. Yeah. Right. The people have the power, or at least bottom up. At least that is how it's presented to us. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's a fair characterization.
But here's one thing no one can take from you. No one can take your time. Right. And I think that's an important thing to talk about. And I think it's an important thing to think about and put in the framework of this conversation, is each person that is listening, each person that gets to participate in life with us. Like, no matter what happens in your life, personally, your circumstances, anything. I just talked with a guy yesterday for lunch. Incredible tragic thing happened to him, right? And but the fact remains is he still has the same time I do, right? And your circumstances don't dictate your life. They may influence it, right? But you choose your life, right? And so anyway, I say all that. I don't know why it got me thinking about it, but when after we were talking yesterday, it was like, boy, all this stuff is happening. Yes. What we can't miss is we have a specific allotted amount of time. That's all we got, right? What we do with it is extremely important, extremely. And how, in the framework we have to live, this is why this stuff is so important. Yeah. Because it affects us. Think about what you're doing right now in your lawsuit in the state of Michigan for the health department. Like, I mean, think about that. This is why I connected with you in such a real way. It's kind of like, hey, here's somebody who's willing to take a stand with what he has influence over, which is your restaurant. But it's something that led down a rabbit hole of from masks now being like, how the laws you have through your story and through your battle that you've now had influence over the state over literally impacts people's time, energy, and efforts in a way that's drastic, right?
Yeah.
That stuff, that's what you have to be a part of. You have to be a part of that stuff.
Certainly never, I mean, my goodness, we never had any idea. I didn't know any of these.
No, of course. Why would you?
Laws, or
why would you?
Needed to.
No.
But you're spot on. Absolutely, 100% correct. I recently gave you that book by Robert Kiyosaki.
I like it.
And if anybody hasn't read The Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki, there's some bit about time in there. And it kind of describes there's four main ways that you can create wealth or income, depending on how you look at it, but generally wealth. And one of them is basically, you're investing your time versus spending your time. A lot of us, and even me here with the restaurant, if I'm not here generally, the restaurant doesn't. I mean, I don't get to go on vacation for an entire year and just make boatloads of money off of this restaurant. I mean, it doesn't. That's just not how it works. Many people, many people think that, but that's those that know better know that small businesses take their owners, to be a part of it. So I don't have, a true B-type business or an investment business quite as yet. But time is such a big part of that. And I never realized 3 years ago, in the midst of this whole thing, all we were trying to do was keep the lights on.
Yeah.
We weren't setting out to be constitutional, anything, this, that, or the other, but we kept that ball rolling, and that principle that guided us, not just me, but us, everybody that supported us, that came out to the restaurant. A lot of people listening right now. I mean, a lot of people listening right now. So much of the community that did, everybody that listens, that's listening, has supported us. And that's why the lights are still on and that we're still able to employ 24 people. Yep. That's, that was a worthy investment of my time. And there's been a lot of time when I just wanted to give up and quit. But I realized that we're down this rabbit hole now, and we're illuminating what's going on with the power structures within our government and how those are being used against small business and private citizens and a lot of that stuff. And I just never once, A, wanted, or B, figured that, I would have a podcast where we're talking about the unconstitutionality of laws in Michigan. And have a case before the Michigan Supreme Court, and have a case doing this, and have this and that and the other. It's a very strange world to live in. Yeah. But I'm fascinated, and that's why these things that come around, like a Supreme Court ruling out of Colorado saying that a presidential candidate is not able to be on the primary ballot. That's fascinating. That's something I've never known to happen in history. Doesn't mean that it hasn't, but I don't think another presidential candidate has been limited from a primary ballot specifically intentionally for inciting an insurrection.
So to explicitly say, your reaction to that is that, one, of course it shouldn't have happened, right? It points to what? What does that point to in your mind? If you're putting yourself on the left side of the argument?
Well, if I'm putting myself on the left side of this particular argument, this is a win. They obviously are seeking to not have a, quote, insurrectionist on the primary ballot in Michigan, California, Colorado, obviously. Many states.
And then others follow suit.
This is kind of what they want to get out there and get the idea. Now, whether or not the Supreme Court comes along and takes the case, rules on the case, says yay or nay, there's so much speculation about that. Yep. The one thing that I do find fascinating, and I'll use that word a million more times in the next 12 to 18 months, I'm sure. The 9 jurists, 6-3, is that what it was? So. Something like that. Anyways, those that voted in favor of removing Donald Trump are all judges from Ivy League schools. Interesting. Those that voted against the removal of Trump from the primary ballot all had law degrees from state institutions. Wow. So take it one step further, and let's look at some indoctrination from these quote-unquote higher learning facilities, quote, Ivy League schools. And you have to question what the hell is going on at the Harvards and the Princetons In my estimation, all of them are following suit. And we've seen this with some of the Israel and Hamas Palestinian comments
Yes.
a week or two ago. They're still under fire for it.
Big time.
There's only one, it seems, that is Cornell. Cornell University seems like they're kind of staying away from some of this nonsense that ultimately says the Constitution really isn't the final law of the land.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's what I'm concerned about watching is these judges, when we say this is the most important election, I actually believe that judges
are the most
because that judicial branch, separate but equal,
it's the last
is the last bastion of hope for liberty,
right?
Because everything gets weighed against the past and the Constitution together, right? Because it's a living, breathing document. It gets changed every year virtually. So now we may have a little bit further definition of what inciting an insurrection may actually mean. So a Colorado Supreme Court can't just sort of take the language and meander it to what they want. And that's what I'm always saying. Speech is so important. Language is so important. And that's the bigger takeaway for me, is that they're using the incitement of an insurrection without having any specific speed limit sign on that saying, well, this is exactly what that means.
Yeah, that's huge. No, I think that's a very good explanation. I think that's a very good reaction to what's going on. I don't know if there's anything more that needs to be said about that. I think you brought up a really good point about what's happening in Michigan, right? So yeah, this was a good episode. This was a good chance for us to just step back and go, okay, here's what's going on. Here's why it's going on.
And the other unfortunate thing is that it is dominating the news cycle right now. There is a lot of very interesting things happening. Epstein's client list, like we're gonna talk about that coming up pretty soon. I think January 10th or 24th. I don't remember the date, but a judge has ruled the unsealing of all
180. I saw 180.
All the three names are to be unsealed from a Epstein's client list, and or they're calling it a client list, or I forget what the other term is. But this is one of those things that we've kind of been wanting to see for a time.
Sure. It's the club. It's the club.
They're saying at least one president is on that list.
At least one. I mean,
I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's Clinton. But, but you never know.
Ooh.
Yeah, absolutely never know.
No, you don't. You don't at all.
But there's a lot of crazy things going on, and this.
I saw a whole thing that what's going on with Trump was a smokescreen for what's happened with Biden and everything like that. And I guess, sure, yes, or I mean, it's hard to know.
I think it might be bigger than that.
I know.
I think they're gonna. Yeah, again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I might be adjacent, but I think it might be a move to rid the Democrats of Joe Biden on the ticket.
Wow.
And not necessarily
Why
through all
not?
this stuff, but I think it is a great smokescreen to kind of change the channel and kind of, a looky-loo over here. And then, I don't know. I don't know how he's going to be on the ballot if the poll numbers are actual that are coming out right now. I don't know. And there's some good candidates out there.
And it's crazy because, oh my gosh, we could get into so many things, even what's happening in the world right now, and wars and rumors of wars and how things are going down. And what is
the Red Sea,
dude, and what all of this. So you and I are both from here, good old Gaylord, Michigan, the epicenter of everything cultural and relevant.
Yes.
Which is minorly true. Okay, so Gaylord is the home of what would be known as the father of the information age.
Yep. Claude Shannon.
So, I mean, think about that for 1 second, which I don't know why Claude Shannon doesn't get any credit out there on the national and worldwide level. Like, not even close, right?
That is a good question.
We should have like a Claude Shannon museum here in Gaylord, Michigan.
Yeah.
There's so
We
many.
have Claude Shannon Park.
We do.
Right across the street.
No one comes.
I mean, it's an alleyway, but
it's an alley. It's really a pretty low.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we could have done a
Considering.
lot. Yeah, we could have done a lot better, Gaylord. Yeah. Right. So it's really interesting to me. It was funny as I was thinking about our conversation yesterday, and we're talking today, and then I'm thinking about Gaylord. This guy Claude Shannon, who literally invented the kind of like the 0-1 like computer code, which then, I mean, think about being given the father of the information age, right? Think about, and technically, okay, there's an argument that could be made. He could also, now there's another person in the running who's probably getting credit for it, could also be in the running for the father of the AI age. Okay. So Claude Shannon could be given credit for both, for sure one. Okay. That's here in Gaylord, Michigan, right? So there's something about this little town, the epicenter.
It's true.
There's crazy things that happen here. I don't know what's going down, but anyway.
It's the air.
It is.
It's the air here.
It's the air. The water. The air.
It's the air. We're
a little higher. We're a little higher.
We're the
the highest point,
highest elevation in the lower.
That's got to be it. That's got to be it. Okay, I'm going to go with that one.
Yeah,
good.
All right, we'll stick with that one.
All right. I just thought I'd divert a little bit.
In the meantime, Claude Shannon's people need to get on their PR team needs to pick it up.
We really need to. His house, you could probably buy his house if you wanted to.
I think so.
It's downtown. Yeah, I know exactly where it is.
Yeah.
It's owned by like no one who even probably knows it's his house.
You guys are picking up all kinds of information from us today.
Dude, if you and I buy Claude Shannon's house, we're going to turn it into a museum.
We should.
Yeah. People from all over the world.
Would never allow that.
My wife wouldn't even know what it is.
She'd kill me.
Yeah.
Another business? Yeah, you're going to need another
one. Yeah, great idea. Like, no, babe, I promise. It's going to be amazing. People from all over the world is going to come to this thing.
We're filling a need right now, I promise you. All right, brother. Thank you for hanging out with me as usual.
I love it.
That's our live stream for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, Iron Pigs Smokehouse has $25 gift cards on sale for just a few more hours.
Yeah, 2 days. 2 days and 9 hours.
Pick them up, $25 gift card for as low as $15.
Currently $18.70.
IronPigsmoke.com. Thanks, Price Slide CEO
Absolutely.
Drew Spanding.
Trying to become a unicorn tech company.
That's right. Silicon Valley of Michigan, right here in Gaylord.
Claude Shannon did it. Why can't
45th parallel. Right. That's right. Thank you guys for tuning in. FUELcasttv.com is where you can find all of our episodes, YouTube, Spotify, all those fun things. Thanks again, brother. Merry Christmas to everybody out there.
Absolutely.
Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back again soon. Thanks.
Bye.